life is not about making your life problem free. Life is making your life filled with the problems that you're capable of dealing with.
Welcome back to She's So Sweet. This is a part 2 of a continued conversation. Now, I have to call this out because this is only the second 2-part episode I've done here at She's So Sweet. And listen, all of my guests have such tremendous stories that I probably could turn everyone into like an 8-part mini series and call Netflix and be like, hey, listen, I think I'm onto something here. But the reality is, it always depends on the conversation and where we're going with it. And Ashleigh and I had such a great conversation to kick off episode 1 that I just felt compelled to continue this and keep it going. So Ashleigh, welcome back for part 2.
Thanks for having me back. I'll just start calling you Reese Witherspoon.
I love this.
Yeah, I'm happy to give you exclusive first right of refusal on whatever the heck anyone might want to do with this story. Good luck.
No, so good. All right, well, listen, we took the conversation a bunch of different places when we kicked off, but like I want to talk now a little bit more about some of the challenges that we've had to overcome and navigating those, because I feel like this is big for a lot of folks who, especially our listeners. They're all on their own journeys. They're all trying to figure out what success looks like for them, and many are hitting a multitude of different roadblocks, right? Whether it's layoffs, they're trying to pivot in their career, they're just unhappy and trying to, figure out what's next. And listen, there's a whole bunch of things, but I want to talk specifically about some of the pivotal moments or decisions that really contributed to you getting to where you are. So let's pick up there. Talk to me a little bit about reflecting back. Give me big moments in your career.
Yeah. I've had quite a few. And there are moments where kind of the way I've always had I'm very lucky to have a partner who thinks the same way I do, which is kind of, we say yes and figure it out. This does not always go to plan. In fact, it very rarely does, but it usually ends up getting us to where we wanted to go. So the first time I think that really happened was when I took my first management role. There wasn't a management role where I lived, and they're like, we'll give you a management role, but you have to move to Utah. Yes, we'll figure it out. That was one of the things that taught me a lot about negotiation, because the original Relo package was stupid. And I had to go and explain tax rules to accounting, but like I did my research and got what I needed, and it made sense. Like when I explained, finally, it was like, hey, no, but once you do it this way, I end up paying twice as much in taxes, and I actually only get this much, which doesn't even cover the cost of a truck for a 1-bedroom apartment.
Actually, wait, we got to pause there for a second. How did you even know to go down whatever rabbit hole led you to the information that you collected to go and renegotiate? Because I would not even know. I wouldn't even know that that's a thing. Like I am so financially illiterate when it comes to my own money and like these things, that I bless my husband for like always guiding me. But how did you know that like you should be investigating these things?
It basically turned into I was broke. So it was, So like it started with like, oh, we'll give you 10 grand. We'll just give you 10 grand cash as a bonus. And I was like, okay, great. And so I started doing the math. I'm like, okay, I know if they give it to me as a bonus, and I'm going to end up having to pay about 40% in taxes, because that's how I knew that from my commission structures. I'm like, okay, I'll be similar to that. So that gets me down to 6 grand. Okay, yeah, I can move for 6 grand. And then we started sat down and we itemized, okay, 3 grand to break my lease. This much for moving supplies. We moved every year, so we knew how much moving cost. We knew how much we need for a deposit on the new place. Then we looked at how much trucks were and gas, and we're like, oh my gosh, we're going to be out like 4 grand. This is insane. They're like, oh, 10 grand's enough to cover a full move. I'm like, yes, if it were 10 grand.
10 grand, right.
10 grand, it's going to be 6 grand. Ish. And I'm actually moving up a tax bracket because of this, which means that you're actually going to take more of my money out of my paycheck.
So that's what I was interested in, because obviously, like, I understand the one lump sum is going to be taxed, but then also when you're changing states and you're paying different taxes. Now, also, if you're moving in the middle of the year, what does that mean when it's time for taxes to be paid?
That crazy with modeling, and they tried to say, this is one of those things. So they're like, oh, well, you're not getting a raise because you're moving to a lower income area. And I was like, that doesn't quite make sense, because I'm now doing a different job. So this, right. But they didn't give me it was like $2,000. It was virtually nothing. It was mostly symbolic, but that was fine because I was moving to, my rent went from, I think, and this was, 2012, 2013. So this was, my rent went from, actually it was 13, 14, but my rent went from 2,000 something a month to 1,400 a month. So I was like, okay, if I get a couple $100 raise, couple $100 reduction in rent, I'm fine.
Sure.
I'll figure it out. Plus like insurance and stuff was a little bit less and whatever. Plus I also didn't have a crazy commute anymore. So that was nice. But it basically turned into like this thing of no one knows the rules better than someone who's broke. Right? Like that's one of those weird things you learn by having those years where, and if you've been in this place, you know, right? Where it's like, you read the lease, you know how much your lease break is, you know how much utilities are, you know what you're liable for, you know what you're not liable for. You take the video of the apartment when you move in and when you move out, because they will try and screw you and say you trash the carpets. Like you just learn to look for these things. And it is really important. Like I've talked to so many people over the years that will come in and they're like, oh, I'm negotiating my job offer and they won't want to do this and they don't want to do that. I'm like, great. How much is the health insurance? What do you mean? How much is the health insurance? Have you asked about that? Yeah, they said it's really good. Well, what is it? Is it a PPO? Well, yeah. Is it an HMO? How much is it per month? What percentage do they cover? Oh, they cover 90% for me. How much for your spouse? Because that's something a lot of companies will do. They'll do 90% for you, but 20% for your spouse. I'd rather just cover 50% of both.
Right.
You know, you have to just run the math. That was a really big thing for us because my husband has some health issues I've alluded to in the past. So always figuring out, I'll say too, how to ask about that health insurance is a really big thing. So like I figured out, like, pro tip for your viewers, especially in the United States where healthcare is unfortunately tied to jobs. If you're interviewing and you get far enough in the process, it looks like it might go to an offer. The best way I found to handle it is to talk to your hiring manager or the HR coordinator you're talking to and just say, hey, I want to do my due diligence on your benefits. Can I talk to whoever handles that so they can answer some questions? And you typically just ask who's the provider, what are the plans, the specific plans that are offered. And then based off of that, you can just a Google search basically and figure out what's covered, what's not, figure out what category your current prescriptions are under, how much that's going to cost, all that sort of stuff. But like,
actually, what you're saying here is that like, there's benefit.
Don't do what I did my first couple times. That it says, my husband needs a very expensive medication. Can you help me figure out how much it's going to cost in your healthcare plan? Because that just opens you up for discrimination. Unfortunately, the world isn't fair. But if you go and say, hey, could you please just tell me a little bit more about the benefits? What's the plan name? What's the plan type? How much is it covered per? How much does the company cover versus for me versus my spouse versus whoever? How does that all work? And is it covered as of the first of the month or is it covered as of my first day? So do that little bit of math. That's something you can then negotiate around. This is something I did pretty regularly was I'd be like, oh, hey, I want this, but can I also get I want a $1,000 signing bonus because the benefits kick in on the first day of the first full month after I'm hired and I'm starting on the 5th. So I need to be able to cover another month of COBRA. So I think $1,000 to cover that is completely fair. If you've got a reason for the ask, and benefits give you a ton of that. You can say, oh, well, you guys don't offer 401k matching. Can I get a little bit of a bonus here? Or, oh, you guys, I'm going to be commuting more, so I need to upgrade my car. Can I get a little hiring bonus to work here? Oh, I'm relocating to be closer. I think if I remember correctly, U.S. law was if you are there's more than a 60-mile difference between your old employer and your current employer based off distance from your house, you can cover moving costs as a deduction, as a tax deduction.
I'm not even going to go down the rabbit hole of trying to understand how you have learned all of this.
It literally just broke. Just broke.
So I need you to put together a Google Doc of all of the things that you could or should ask or negotiate before accepting an offer.
Everything. Everything is negotiable. Everything is negotiable. You won't always get it, but you can ask. And if they say no to one thing, then they're much more likely to say yes to the next thing. So like the last thing I negotiate is actually salary and commission. It's always going to be everything else first. And then that's the last thing.
Well, listen, if our listeners take nothing with them, it's that. All right, Ashley, so let's go back. So now you're relocating to Utah.
Yeah, so going to Utah, and then Utah did not work. We hated Utah. No shade on Utah, but we hated it. It was not for us. The job was great. I loved the work, but we just culturally, my husband and I are people who really enjoy like going to, this makes it sound like partiers and we're not, but we really just like going to the bar and hanging out with friends.
Yeah.
And there's not much of that in Utah, and multiple people asking me like when I'm going to have kids and if I was having difficulties. And a friend of mine got written up to her pastor because she was seen having coffee with me because I was a known infidel because we kicked the missionaries out. Like, it was a thing.
Okay.
Utah is lovely, but there are some things that did not work with us culturally. So we ended up moving back to San Francisco. And that was another kind of, we'll figure it out. I just applied kind of on a whim to some jobs and I got one, and okay, we'll figure it out. So we moved to San Francisco, and I was there I literally was in that job for, I think, 6 weeks. And I got approached by the former CMO of the previous company that had moved me out to Utah, who had left he was ousted very unceremoniously, and I think kind of rudely, by that company. And because he was ousted, he was not to hire anyone while they worked for that company. But the moment he saw I'd left, he reached out and was like, I know you just started a new job. Is there any way I can basically buy you out? We said yes, and we figured it out. That company that had paid for me to come to San Francisco was not happy. But at the same time, I also voluntarily repaid my hiring bonus. I covered all the relo fees because I negotiated that as part of the buyout from this guy. It's like, well, that's this huge. Basically, he basically gave me an offer I couldn't refuse, and I said that. I was like, hey, I was not looking for this. I was approached, and he's willing to give me enough money to reimburse you everything you cost in basically getting me. So you're still going to be out having to find somebody else. But
I mean, and that you didn't have to do that.
No, I did not.
No, so you didn't have to do that. I mean, obviously, listen, the karma gods are going to come back and bless you at some point for doing the right thing.
And they have, like, tenfold. There's been at least 4 or 5 points where I've done business with that company since.
Great. See? So, like, that's another good learning lesson.
Always leave on good terms. It's whenever possible, leave on good terms. Let me rephrase that. Whenever possible, leave on good terms. Sometimes you got to burn a bridge.
Sure.
And I'll take this to, I'll switch it over and talk about another challenge. There was a point later on, many years later, I'd been in leadership for a while, where things were, still living in the Bay Area. It's expensive as hell. We're still barely breaking even though I'm working for a company that had IPO'd, and I was making well into 6 figures, not multiple 6 figures, but well into 6 figures. Things should have been fine. And it was just a nightmare. And I realized after a while that a huge, huge, huge source of my stress was my boss. Like, I was going in, I was killing it. Everyone loved me. I loved everyone I was working with. But my boss, this woman, just, to this day, I'm not exactly sure what it was, but she did not like me and did not treat me with a lot of respect. But it was all very passive aggressive. So I, being kind of my personality, give everyone the benefit of the doubt. I don't want to say I was naive, but I was borderline naive. I was so excited to have a female boss and work on this female dominated team. And oh my gosh, look at us. This is fantastic. Corporate America, go shove it, And I didn't realize until it was far too late, honestly, that I was just being set up to fail again and again and again. And it was only my own skill, for lack of a better term, that meant that she hadn't forced me out the first 6 months she worked for me, or I worked for her. And then it got really aggressive with intentionally setting quotas that didn't make any sense, scheduling meetings at the last minute, ignoring my work hours, intentionally not giving specific directions and then getting mad at me for not following them. At one point, I was put on a PIP that included 3 things. Mm-hmm. One was I had people on my team buy me lunch and expense it. When I asked for proof of that, she didn't have any. HR even was like, well, wait a minute, why'd you put it on there if you don't have proof? Because I actually had people buy me lunch, but I would give them money for it, or it was a pre-approved thing. So that called my ethics, and I got really pissed at that.
Yeah.
I was accused of not hitting goals for the past 3 months, which was impressive considering she hadn't given me any. I literally went 4 months in a sales role without a quota. My team had quotas. Wild. I didn't. And I brought that up. And again, HR is kind of sitting in this meeting looking at this person like, you haven't, but you said the goal was this. I'm like, that was the first time I've seen that number. Please show me an email or a meeting where that number was discussed. Right. Oh, we discussed it in meetings several times. Which ones? Right. I got 10 emails asking for clarification because I haven't gotten commission. You know, like it was that. And then the last one still cracks me up. There was a project to get a field in Salesforce updated around the SLA for MQLs. So a lot of letters there. Basically how quickly my team processed leads from marketing that might be sales ready. You want to hit them as quick as you can. And this field wasn't auto-updating correctly, so we had to go manually check everything every day. Kind of sucked. Ate a lot of time. She put in the SLA, this has been an ongoing thing. It'd been on the issue list for like 6 months. Ops was aware of it. Ops had it queued. I was told repeatedly to check once a month where it was, and it just kept getting bumped because it was a non-urgent thing. In that PIP, all of a sudden she wrote that I should have known they had a weekly ops meeting and physically gone to that ops meeting to advocate that this was important. At what point in the past 4 months was that made clear that was one, my job, and that two, that was what you expected?
Right.
So I put on this PIP and I was like, this is not one, this is a joke of a PIP. Like, you're going to put me on a PIP, like actually put some good stuff in there. 2, you literally admitted none of this is documented.
Yeah.
So I went to HR, and after talking to a few people, they told me the magic phrase, constructive dismissal.
Ooh.
Fun tip. Constructive dismissal is when a company makes your work environment so unbearable you quit. Because when you quit, they don't have to pay unemployment benefits.
Yeah.
So like they can't cut your hours down to 0 or make your work intolerable so you quit because you're miserable. That's a constructive dismissal. So I went in and said, this is a constructive dismissal. All of a sudden, they were very happy to discuss severance. But it sucked because I didn't want to leave this company. I loved everyone else except this boss. I loved the work I was doing. I loved the team I had built. This was another problem. I had like 18 people reporting to me.
Like direct reports?
Fresh out of college on 3 continents. Yeah. But I loved it. I loved this work. I loved this company. It was growing. It was doing things. But it took way too long for me to realize that I was never going to succeed under this woman. And by the time I realized it, they're like, yeah, you can go try and find a job somewhere else. The company's pretty big. But every time I applied to another job, and I applied to 2, and I got to interviews with both of them, and both of them said, hey, we'd actually love to hire you, but I can't. Because I have external people who aren't on PIPs. Because I was still technically on a PIP, they couldn't hire me.
That's crazy. I mean, can we also just align for a second? Ashley, I need your opinion on this because I have a big problem with PIPs. And almost just because of the name, because it's a performance improvement plan, but it's never the intention to have the person improve their performance. Why don't you just call it what it is? Like a termination process. Like it is a formality, because honestly, it is so horrible and cruel what we do to employees is you make them jump through hoops. You stress them out. Everyone is like, as a manager with a PIP, you're doing all this extra documentation, all this extra work with the employee. You're having them jump through hoops. Their stress, their anxiety is through the roof. Like, they're trying not to lose their job. And ultimately, the intention behind it is never pure. It's never good. I've only heard of maybe like 1 or 2 people, companies, leaders who have ever done a PIP with the right intentions and have actually seen a positive outcome. So I really hate this entire process, and not to go off on a tangent, but like it is infuriating to me because why are we doing this? If you don't want somebody on the team, it's employment at will. Talk about it and like, let's just part ways.
Yeah, it's okay. So a couple things. Oh, there's a lot to unpack. We could do a whole episode on PIPs because
my gosh,
fundamentally, the way 99% of companies do PIPs is, like you said, basically wrong. And anytime I have a friend who says, "Oh, my boss just put me on a PIP," it's like, start looking for another job. You have to. That said, there are companies, whenever I've done a PIP as a manager, I'm very clear with them. And this is just more of a me to them personality thing. I think it's a mark of a good leader. If I'm putting you on a PIP, like, it is, here's what you need to do, and here's what you're getting from me. This is a 2-way contract. It's not a you do this or else with a gun to your head. It's a 2-way thing. And if we both do this, we believe that we believe that this is going to be successful and it's going to work. And if it doesn't, then we part ways amicably and it's fine. And it's a lot of work as a manager to do it that way. And when I've done it that way, it has about a 50% success rate. The nice thing though is when I've done that and it hasn't worked, we know typically by the second week or so. And so then it's like, hey, we've still got 4 weeks, 6 weeks left on the PIP. Do your job. Here's the bare minimum. Use me as a reference. This job is just not for you. That's fine. Use me as a reference. What can we do to support your job search over the next 6 weeks? Over the next 4 weeks? And then you just don't get a severance. Basically, I'm just going to keep you on payroll as long as possible, as long as you do the bare minimum. And now I get to go hire the replacement and potentially have you train them. But now it's a positive thing. Everyone sees this person's not going to be booted out the door. It's just not fit. We're all fine. I've only had to spot fire 2 people in my life. One was a case of fraud.
That'll do it.
They were faking stuff. You can't fake stuff. Another one, someone had a really bad day and got angry and threatened a prospect in writing. Literally sent this person a LinkedIn message that I hope you get what's coming to you.
Whoa.
And it's like, dude, you're smarter than this.
Yeah.
Like, I remember going to the CEO on that because that a person that message was sent to was connected to me on LinkedIn. And so he forwarded it to me. He's like, heads up, your team member just sent me this. And I was like, thank you. Leave it with me. My apologies. No big deal. Well, not no big deal. Like it was an SDR manager to SDR manager. So it was like, we know, thank you for the heads up. So I went to my CEO and my CEO was like, well, maybe we should give him another chance. I was like, nope, this is a zero tolerance thing. Like this is integrity for the profession. This is not what we do. And if we give even one pass on this, like that, no.
Yeah.
Like that was the one time in my life, I think, where I actually advocated and I felt bad doing it. But like, there are certain lines you do not cross. There is no tolerance.
Right.
That's one of them. Like, was it a mild thing? Yes. Did that person have a bad day? Absolutely. He's gone.
Yeah, but we're adults. We have to be accountable for our actions. And I'm sorry, like everyone has a bad day. I don't go threatening people.
It's the right to free speech. You are allowed to say whatever you want. You are not free from consequences.
Right. Thank you.
So anyway, but coming out of that job with the crazy boss, it was really rough. It screwed with me for a while. And that was one of the first times where I really had the realization, especially as someone who is in a steady long-term relationship. I have not dated since 2006. I'm old. I'm a classic millennial, and I am very glad I never had to do apps. Good Lord, am I glad I never had to do apps. But dealing with that after having a couple layoffs beforehand, like I was a little broken. Like I had no confidence. I was super frustrated. I went through all the stuff. Started going through all these emotions. And one of my friends actually was the one who, well, 2 things happened. One of my friends was like, Ashleigh, you're basically going through the process of an abusive breakup. And I was like, oh, like I've counseled friends through this stuff. Like I'm not a therapist. My friends aren't therapists. I'm not going to equate what people who are in abusive marriages or abusive long-term relationships. But there are elements that you go through when you're in an abusive work situation. And that's honestly, I think, what that situation was. And I don't think we talk about that enough. And that can mess with you for years.
Yeah.
And that messed with me for a while too. The other part of it that really messed with me, and I genuinely did not realize this until like my 3rd day after I was done with this job, I met my dad for lunch. My dad lived in another city, happened to be in town. And my dad's smart. He's been in tech for, 30, 40 years at this point. And I'm telling him this story and I'm venting, I'm still processing and I'm angry and whatever. And at one point he's like, Ashleigh, quick question. How many people did she hire? How many managers did she hire? I said, oh, she hired 4. And he just looked at me, he's like, how many of them were women? And I went, none. All the women we were so excited about working with, we all predated her. And I was the last one left of those women. Every other one had moved into another role or another office.
Wow.
And I was like, oh, I completely missed it. I completely missed the most sexist experience in my career was woman on woman. Because it just did not occur to me.
Yeah.
I was like, what do you mean? What do you mean?
Right.
She's helping me. She's just being hard on me.
Right. Yeah.
I just played right into all of it. And then with hindsight, I was like, no. The fact that I had to go to HR crying, scared to tell her that I needed time off to take my husband for medical care. The fact that I was working 14-hour days to try and make sure I was covering all this stuff for the random meetings. The fact that I was saying yes to these crazy travel arrangements to go to other parts of the world to try and get these things to happen. The fact that I said yes to supervising that many direct reports, all these things, like I look back, I'm like, okay. Yeah, it's all there. It's all there. And it's not the same, but it has a lot of those same patterns. As you see with abusive romantic relationships. And so it's been a very interesting process to unpick it. And the more I start loosely talking about that, the more people are like, oh, my boss was like that too. Or, oh, I had one of those too. And it's men and women, like it's everyone.
Right. I'm always fast to also just like put that out there. It's not men on women or women on women. It is a leadership issue with some folks that this is the situation that we can find ourselves in. Because I've said to people, the worst leader I ever had in my career was a woman.
Yeah.
But the best leader I ever had in my career was a woman.
Yeah.
So for me, it's like, I don't assign gender to shitty leaders. No, anybody can be a shitty leader.
No, and that's the truth. And the problem, and I think the problem, this is a problem as a society, is we still, especially in America, I've noticed moving to Europe, it's not as much over here from what I've seen. Now, I could be wrong. I'm still newer over here, but from what I've seen working with European companies over the past 10 years and now living here, it's not as much. But that's this idea of let's promote the top performer into leadership. Yeah. The top performer does not necessarily have the social skills and the emotional IQ to do leadership. They might be the best performer, but that does not make them a great teacher. Bluntly, my favorite way to explain this, especially because women tend to get this more than men, in my experience, this nuance, that whole not the top performer is not always the best leader. Mm-hmm. The best way I explain this to people is, okay, how good do you think Tom Brady is as a coach? Not a very good one.
Yeah.
How good is Wayne Gretzky as a coach? Terrible. Terrible. He's also gone a little bit crazy. A lot of the best players in sport, most of the best players in sports, make terrible coaches. Terrible. Now, there are a few that are great, but most of them are pretty terrible. A lot of that's because things that come instinctive to them make them great, and they know how they did their job great. They know how to be Wayne Gretzky. They know how to be Tom Brady. They don't know how to be anyone else. A great coach, a great leader, has to know how to treat a Tom Brady different from an Aaron Rodgers. I know I'm dating myself with these quarterbacks, but I haven't followed American football in 10 years. You have to know.
They're all still relevant.
I know. You have to know how these different people interact with each other, and how their strengths and their weaknesses, and how to deal with that. And that's usually not your top performer. It's going to be someone 1 or 2 levels back. Doesn't mean they're not incredibly skilled, because they are. But it's a slightly different set of skills. So you look at I'm a hockey girl. If you're watching the video version of this, you'll see I've got a Colorado Avalanche scarf in the background. Huge hockey fan. You look at the staff of most NHL teams, it's predominantly ex-NHL players. They just only played a couple seasons. Most of them aren't Hall of Famers. A lot of them are what I call journeymen. They played for 10 years, or they got injured, or they played for just a couple of years and then switched into coaching. That's the path. It's very rare you get a player who was, and they do happen, but it's rare you get a player that goes from being top of the game Hall of Famer straight into coaching and is successful. It's incredibly rare. But yet that's what corporate America does every freaking day. It's all, oh my God, we only hire top performer. We only hire the people who are in the top 1% of quota. Great. Tell me about the quota system. Quota system could have been completely rigged. I'd rather hire someone who knows how to get 20% out of nothing than someone who knows how to get 100% out of something they didn't have to work for at all. So it's
such a valid point.
Just broken. It's just broken. And more companies are getting better about it. More companies are getting better about giving training. I think I mentioned in our last episode, my first managerial job, I was told to go hire people. I was scheduled for like 8 hours of interviews and given no interview training. So again, just Googled, what can I not ask in an interview? Because I was terrified of getting causing the company a lawsuit or something. Companies are getting better, but it's still stuck in that let's promote our top performer mindset versus let's promote the person who can understand and build the system.
Yeah. I mean, like, I mean, again, to your point about our other topic that we hit on, like, this could be an entirely, it could be its own episode on its own. So let's shift gears.
The She's So Sweet podcast is brought to you by Client Success. Client Success is an all-in-one customer success platform to help post-sale implementation and success teams manage customers from new to renew. Through an industry-leading platform approach, Client Success gives businesses an in-depth view into customer health, product usage trends, along with churn and risk data so that your team can not only retain customers, but help them grow as well. Whether it's managing customer onboarding workflows in shared portals, building custom health scores, tracking sentiment with NPS surveys, or doing more with less through AI and automations, Client Success gives customer success professionals a true one-stop platform to manage all aspects of the customer journey. To learn more about the industry's fastest to implement customer success platform, visit www.clientsuccess.com. That's Client Success. Simple, powerful customer success.
I want to learn a little bit more about some of the highs, right? Like we've talked about a lot of things you've had to navigate. You have pivoted a whole bunch of times. You have found yourself in good opportunities, not so great ones. You've kind of made a path for yourself. But now I want you to reflect back because obviously you've had some success that got you to this point. So when you look back, what are some of your like highs? What are those big accomplishments that you're super proud of?
Honestly, the things I'm the most proud of are the things that I said yes to, even though I had no idea how to do it. Someone told me very early on in my career, don't lie, but if you don't know how to do something, do it, say yes and figure it out. So like I've mentioned that before, but like, just getting into sales in the first place. I'm really proud I took that leap and was like, I'm going to fake the confidence and I'm just going to do it. And it worked really well. That worked great. I'm really proud of how hard I worked, especially in the points where I felt the least confident. Like when I went into work for a company called FireEye for years. And that was a very hot up and coming company. I got in there because a couple of people vouched for me that I'm still thankful to them to this day. That was my big kind of break. But like I went in there that first couple of weeks and I just documented everything. I was so scared. I've worked so hard to make sure I got myself up to speed on everything cybersecurity. I knew nothing about cybersecurity. I just worked so hard to get that going. And to the point where everyone else on the team thought I was some show off, part of my French kiss ass
interesting
thing. And like, cause the manager kept saying, hey, look at this thing that Ashleigh built. And Ashleigh built this. I built an interactive PowerPoint deck to help myself with scripting because I was so scared of would I know what to say on the phone. And she was so excited. It became like the standard. They used it there for like another 5 years. It was a whole thing, but like it took, but then I'm also proud of like in those situations where it went wrong, the team was like, oh, look at Miss Know-It-All. She thinks everything. She knows is better than us. And I was like, oh, no. Y'all intimidate the hell out of me and I'm scared. I'm doing this because I'm trying to catch up with you.
Interesting.
And so like those moments where I would do something and it had the exact opposite reaction of what I wanted. And I was able to pivot. And there's been a few of those where I did something with brilliant intentions and learned that intentions don't mean, and that's okay as long as you're honest and authentic about it and be like, that was not how I meant this to come across. Here's what I meant and here's what I'm doing about it. But that I'm really proud of. But then also again, like those moments where it's like bet on myself, where it's like saying yes to the job that is a reach, applying for the job that is the reach. And the biggest one I think is two things that happened in very quick succession. And that's the year of 2020, where I jumped into consulting, literally bet on myself. I'm like, I don't know how I'm going to do this. I don't know anything about this. I've said for years, I don't want to be consultants. Consultants are idiots. Consultants are people who failed. I did a lot.
I mean, I'm sure a lot of people who sit in this same seat have said many a thing. So I think you're
just do that because they can't hack it in the real thing. Yeah, well, I mean, I could hack it. I just didn't want to anymore. It was a whole thing. And I jumped on and figured it out myself. And I made a lot of mistakes. I went way too wide, did too many things, learned to narrow down. But then at the middle of that, my husband and I also made the decision to leave the United States. And it wouldn't have been possible if I hadn't become self-employed, if I hadn't founded my own company, because that enabled me to apply for the visa that we're on, which is called a DAFT visa. Since I know there might be some other people interested in leaving the United States, the Netherlands has a treaty with the United States called DAFT, the Dutch-American Friendship Treaty, which says that if you found a business in the Netherlands, and that just means found a Dutch company. So I own a company in the United States, Ashleigh Early LLC. I own a company in the Netherlands, Ashleigh Early BV. Basically the same thing.
Oh.
My Dutch company basically sponsors me, and it only costs 4,500 euros.
Interesting.
Plus application fees, which is like $1,000. And I get the 4,500 euros back when I leave or dissolve the company or become a citizen or get naturalized for permanent residency. So I would never, my husband and I, when we just started dating, did a couple months actually, in Durham in Northern England. And we absolutely fell in love with Europe.
Okay.
We both felt like, okay, this is where we're supposed to live. Like just the pub culture and like the real sense of community. A lot of people are gonna be like, oh, but I get that in the States. It's different. There's a real, I mean, like I got COVID in 2021 and my 80-year-old neighbor brought me soup. Like it's a different level of
where people I genuinely care for one another.
It really is. It's really special. We love it here. And we'd been trying, like I'd applied at multiple companies to try and transfer. Like I'd mentioned, I've run multinational teams. So I was always looking for those transfer spots.
Yeah.
Nothing ever worked. And then finally, height of COVID, my husband's also very good at the Google foo. And I just started my own company. I'm losing my mind at the computer trying to make rent for the next month. He's behind me watching politics going, we should leave, to be honest, and trying to figure out if we could make that work. And it was only because he's like, oh my gosh, this is the path. And so, May, June 2020, we decided, okay, we're going to try this. And it took us 6 months to figure out the way and get all the paperwork together. And October, we listed our house for sale. November, it sold. November, December, we were living in hotels. And then January 8th, we got on a plane. And to this day, as of mid-May, when we're recording this, 2025, we have not been back. And
you haven't been back to the States?
Nope. Well,
is your family still here? Do you have family here?
So we still have family there. To be fair, we're also like, hey, Europe's more fun.
Like come visit us.
Yeah.
Like take a vacation. Yeah.
We'll just meet up in Paris. I mean,
oh my God. Can you imagine someone? I mean, I wish more people would say that to me. Let's just meet in Paris.
We'll meet up in Paris. Christy, I'm inviting you right now. We're going to meet up.
Okay. I'm done. I love it. I'm going to take the invite. I do get to go to London at the end of June for a wedding.
I'm going
for a
in
friend's
the end of
wedding.
August. We're missing each other.
But I do need more reason to leave I need more reason to leave my house. But I definitely need more reasons to leave the States.
I will say I am a 3-hour train ride from London.
Oh, it's such a short trip. We're flying in on a Friday. We're leaving on a Sunday. The wedding's on a Saturday. Like, I mean, we're like, my husband and I are like in and out. Everyone's like, why aren't you just staying and making it a vacation? I'm like, we have a kid. We have work. We're abandoning all our responsibilities to go to a wedding. So we're going to go for the wedding and then we're going to go home. But another trip, I will definitely try to coordinate that because I love it over there. I do. I always fall so madly in love. It is so beautiful. And you're right. The experience and the culture is so different.
Yeah. Every time one of my friends comes back, I'm like, welcome back to civilization. With love. Just be clear. Like yes, there are moments like I walk out my front door and I live on a canal and I'm like, oh my gosh, what happened? I live in Europe. I did a girls trip to Prague last October.
I mean, that actually sounds like heaven.
It kind of
actually sounds like heaven.
Yeah, and it's still, but like, let me be clear, like taxes are insane. You do pay a lot more in taxes. Now the healthcare is a ton cheaper. So for me, actually, I'm still saving about 10 to 15 grand a year.
Wow.
The taxes are very differently done. So I'm still kind of digging out of some complex tax stuff. So you have to hire a tax accountant over here. You can't do it like you can in the States.
Okay.
Immigration is a freaking paperwork nightmare. Two of these binders back here are nothing but immigration papers.
Oh my gosh.
It's a paperwork nightmare. It made me go gray. It made me start genuinely going gray in the middle of the immigration process. Learning Dutch. Dutch is a nonsense language. It makes no sense. This word order is a nightmare. I don't care how many articles I read that say Dutch is one of the easiest languages to learn as an English speaker. They're lying. The word order is nonsense. And even I've talked to at least 10 Dutch natives who say that they failed Dutch but aced English.
Huh.
So even the Dutch don't speak Dutch properly.
I mean,
I'm in the middle
I
of
think
doing
that's probably to be said for a lot of languages,
it definitely can,
English
but
included.
yeah, and I'll say this too. And also one of the things about the Netherlands is one of the few countries, a few of the Nordics do this too, that they don't translate and dub the American or the English speaking content. They use subtitles. So you speak to anyone under the age of about 60 in the Netherlands, they speak better English than a lot of people in certain parts of the United States. Which is really interesting. So there's everyone speaks English. It's really easy to get along. They appreciate when you try and learn Dutch. In fact, they're usually really excited to practice their English with a native speaker, which is fun. That usually devolves into translating swear words at each other.
Well, you can now be the Duolingo owl. Maybe that is your next career path.
Duo and I have an ongoing feud at the moment because it keeps because I work so late, the midnight reset for the streak, I've gotten it up to a year multiple times, and then one day it doesn't register doesn't warn me, and then I lose it, and I'm like, I can't handle it.
My husband's doing Duolingo for Spanish, and I just hear his conversations with Lily and all of his other little characters that he speaks to, and he's like, she's so mean to me. I'm like, is she meaner than your Garmin? I feel like that's the barometer of mean I'm trying to suss out here.
Mean. I'm laughing really hard though, because also I just got back from a little mini vacation. One of the days we went to a safari zoo where you drive around, and I may have made my husband take a picture of me with a rhino, because one of the first sentences they teach you in Duolingo is "de neushoorn heeft een staart," which means the rhino has a tail. But I made him take a photo of me going with a rhino.
I'm also just very interested in why that's the first sentence, but I feel again, we can unpack a whole nother set of episodes here just on that alone.
Yeah, it's insane. But yeah, so moving to the Netherlands was the best thing we've ever done. Hands down. It was hard. It still is. We're still trying to figure everything out. We've been here 5 years almost, but it's the right problems. And that's something I think I've learned now as I'm entering my fourth decade. Is life is not about making your life problem free. Life is making your life filled with the problems that you're capable of dealing with.
I love that. Ashleigh, and you know what's interesting? The last question that I always ask as we wrap up is what's the one thing you want to leave with our listeners, right? Or what's the last thing you want to say? You could end on that because it is good, but I will give you the prompt anyway to see if you want to go an alternative path, because as we wrap up our episode, I need to know, what do you want to leave our listeners with?
I think that's really it. It's it's that combination of don't try and make your life problem free, but you can pick the problems you want to have. I chose not to be constantly battling health insurance in the United States.
Yeah.
I am now constantly battling tax. I can handle that. I can handle taxes. Is it annoying? Do I want to gouge my eyes out? Yes, I can handle it. The same thing works with jobs. I understand the economy is crazy. I understand that jobs can be hard to get. But nothing is worth your self-respect, your mental health, your family balance. If you are willing to look for those problems that you are capable of handling, you can do so much more with your life. And sometimes that means making really hard choices, like leaving the country, which I still can't believe we did. It means some really hard decisions and some hard choices. And not everyone has everything available to them. I'm also keenly aware of the advantages that I had due to education, due to family support for leaving, all these other things, having been to Europe before and being exposed to these cultures. But at the same time, there are so many people who I see trapped in these little worlds they fill for themselves and just think the problems I have are the only problems I'm ever going to have. So it's kind of that two parts of life is not about making your life problem free, but choosing which problems you're capable of dealing with, and then looking for where you can actually deal with those. Because there is always another path if you're just brave enough to take it.
I love that. I always feel like that resonates so much when you hear that, I guess people say, choose your hard, right? It's yes. Hard. It's hard to be to wake up in the morning and go to the gym and take care of yourself. It's hard to be overweight and have diabetes and have health issues, right? Like choose your hard. And I think that very much sounds like a very similar sentiment, right? We get to make these choices. And to your point, our lives will never be problem free, but we do get to decide which problems we want to take on.
Yeah. Like I'll say this, like on a more kind of personal road, like my husband, I chose not to have kids. You know, it was an active choice. And it was that same sort of thing. We chose the hard. We've got enough other hard in other areas of our life that make us not want to add that element to. We also, just for us, we don't think it would be fair to the kid. We don't think it'd be good for us, wouldn't be healthy for us, wouldn't be healthy for that child. We'll stick with dogs, who you can lock in a cage. And
everyone gets to make choices in life. Like I'm a stepmom. I'm a stepmom, and my kid, that is my kid. I have raised her. She is my kiddo. I love her to death. I didn't have any of my own. It was a choice I got to make, right? With me and my husband, we got to make a decision of what our family looks like. We all make choices in life. And as long as we're doing that with an understanding of outcomes, circumstances, all of the things, then, you know, more power to us, right? These are our choices.
And to that point, don't judge other people's hard.
Oh like, gosh.
Yeah. I have so many people who are like, oh my gosh, your life must be so easier. You don't have kids. I'm like, you have no clue.
Right. That's a very bold and interesting assumption. It always makes me laugh when people say things out loud.
But that's the thing. I think that if I'm leaving with anybody who's listening, and especially, you know, women and men, just everyone, like if there's something that's really making you miserable in your life, there's probably a way to either cut that out or to reduce other things. Like I wish I have a magic wand and could make my husband's health issues go away. Oh dear Lord, yes.
Yeah.
But that doesn't work. But what I can do is get to the point where I'm not stressing about that every single day and worrying about the cost of ER visits.
Oh man, Ashleigh, listen, we could easily record probably 10 hours and I still don't feel like it would do your career, your path, or your stories justice. But I am so grateful that you've given us an extra 60 minutes. And I am excited to put together my second 2-part series episode. And so just grateful for all of your time and sharing and imparting all of your wisdom and your experiences with our listeners. Thank you so much.
Of course. Thanks for having me. I'm honored to be the second parter.
Excellent. Well, for those of you who have stayed along listening to this episode, if you enjoyed it, please rate, follow us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, subscribe on YouTube, connect with both Ashleigh and myself on LinkedIn. And until next time, we'll see you soon.
Hi guys, I want to share a bit about an organization that I support called Wednesday Women. They're on a mission to increase the visibility of executive women leaders that you should know, learn from, and be inspired by. On LinkedIn, they share the profile of 2 amazing women each week, on Wednesdays, of course. And now just imagine if we all followed, amplified, and nominated the women that we want to see more of. Their initiative provides examples of women CEOs, founders, sales executives, technical leaders, and so many more. By supporting Wednesday Women, you'll see more of these professionals in your social feeds, of course, but also on stages, podcasts, and panels. If you're interested in learning more and supporting their initiative, head over to www.wednesdaywomen.org or follow them on LinkedIn.